From the Temple in Independence, Missouri, welcome back to CIMM Sessions, little bite-sized servings of theology, culture, and community of Christ, identity, mission, message, beliefs, and practices. It's good to have you here today. Tonight we have with us Emily Rose, who is the Peace and Justice Minister for the Sierra Pacific Mission Center. She's an ordained 70 in the church, and she says that her passion lies at the intersection of faith and justice. Emily graduated from Graceland University with a Bachelor of Arts in Religion and Philosophy, as well as English. And she also received her MDiv degree from Claremont School of Theology. And we're very lucky to have her tonight talking to us about a Peace Colloquy in Sierra Pacific. And we're going to hear a lot about what that was and what that means for people all over the church. So go ahead and welcome Emily.
Hi, friends. It is so good to be with you. Just want to thank you so much for your willingness to be here tonight. I'm excited to chat with you and share about this event that brings me so much joy and enthusiasm. So I want to talk tonight about the Redwoods Peace Colloquy. This is an event that has been birthed out of the Sierra Pacific Mission Center. As David said, I am the Peace and Justice Minister for that Mission Center. I support them with events like this. And just to give you a little backstory about our philosophy behind the Peace Colloquy. So in my work for the church, I have also served in Southern California in years past. And while I was there, I ran across an organization called CLUE, that stands for Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. And they were a group of community organizers that gathered faith leaders and lay leaders and really leveraged their moral voice to walk alongside unions. And one of the things that my friend Adam, who was a community organizer for CLUE, would say about his job is that it was his job to make connections and to say over and over, you folks should know each other. That is the philosophy behind the Redwoods Peace Colloquy. Our goal is to bring in folks who are doing really important, tangible work on various social justice topics, for us to learn from them and build partnerships, and to invite folks from all over the place along the way. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit about our past events that we've had, and then invite you to our upcoming one in September. The other piece of the puzzle that guides our light for this event is a quote from Steve Veazey's sermon, A Time to Act. He gave this in 2017. I'm going to read you the full quote because you can't see my slides and I still want you to be able to have the words. So here's the quote. The future church is being formed by a basic concept. Our chief purpose is to birth, nurture, and multiply communities of disciples and seekers engaged in spiritual formation and compassionate ministry and action. This basic blueprint, spiritual formation, community, compassionate ministry and action, is true to the vision of Christ. Everything else, like organizational structure, resources, funding methods, congregational forms, etc., should support this primary purpose. So our goal with the Peace Colloquy is to live into that vision. How can we become spiritually formed communities of compassionate action? Emphasis on the action piece, that we will form relationships with nonprofits and organizations that are active in our communities and really catalyze our faith movement to join them. I want to tell you a little bit about our previous event. So our first Redwoods Peace Colloquy started in December of last year. We had an event called Sacred Soil, and we focused on soil health and the climate crisis, specifically with an emphasis on the Farm Bill. So we invited organizations that had to do with those topics that sat at the intersection of climate health, a faithful response as people of faith, and what we can do in the face of the climate crisis. And eventually you're going to see beautiful pictures from that event in this presentation. But we invited all kinds of organizations, a lot of which really sparked some broader involvement after that event. What we like to do is invite organizations that have a nationwide chapter system. So if we have folks that come in from other places in the country, they can then go home and join in with the local chapter of that organization. So one example that we had at our last event was FCNL, the Friends Committee for National Legislation, and they are a Quaker organization, and they help folks learn how to meet with their representatives, rooted in some of the peace principles of the Quaker faith, but also with the intention of inviting others along the way. So FCNL gave a lovely presentation. We had folks from California Interfaith Power and Light. So they, again, draw people in who are people of faith and help them organize around ways to combat the climate crisis. So organizations like that came and really inspired us. We also had singer-songwriter Peter Mayer. If any of you have encountered his music, you know that he, again, pulls on those threads of environmental justice and the sacred, and he gave a beautiful concert that Friday night. It was a really wonderful event. I actually have a QR code on this second page with photos that hopefully we'll be able to make available to you so that you can go to our landing page for that event that happened in December, because we still have a gallery of photos. We've got all of the resources and presentations that people gave. We've got their slides loaded, so you could go and learn all about what we learned at the Peace Colloquy last December. And this is where I want to pivot and invite you into our next Peace Colloquy. I'm so thrilled to invite you to this next event. So our first Peace Colloquy was held in California. It was at Happy Valley and also the San Jose congregation. That's part of the reason why the language for our event is called the Redwoods Peace Colloquy. It started in Sierra Pacific. We also really love the imagery of redwood roots sending messages over miles and being connected. And that's kind of the system that we're hoping to create, this grassroots connection between church members all over the place to activate them to seek peace in their communities. So all of that is background and context to help you know that this next event that we're going to be holding is going to be in Washington, D.C. So we are moving, experimenting, partnering with the Chesapeake Bay Mission Center and the Washington, D.C. congregation to put on a new event that will be September 6th through the 9th in Washington, D.C. Our theme is Racism and Gun Violence, People of God Respond. And I want to give just a little bit of background. So we're going to be inviting activists and faith leaders and scholars to come and really teach us about the intersections between racism and gun violence. We're also going to have some experts train us in how to have a lobby meeting with a representative. This is because on that final day of this event, we will actually meet with representatives in Congress, representatives, senators, and their staffers to tell them about what we've learned and share our story. So it's really exciting. I'm really excited about this event. It's been a dream of mine to host something like this where we talk about peace and justice, and then we do something really actionable at the end by talking to people who hold power in our country. So all of that is sort of like a broad umbrella of what we're inviting you to. I want to take a moment too, just to talk about the theme and why it is we want to talk about this. So first, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, gun violence is the #1 killer of kids and teens in the United States. So that's one of the things that propelled us to talk about this. The second thing is that the CDC actually notes that Black Americans are twice as likely to die from gun violence as white Americans. And so we know that racism and gun violence are actually two interconnected issues, and we're inviting in experts to tell us about why those two are connected and how we can work to dismantle both. The third really piece of this Venn diagram that has compelled us to talk about this is that in Community of Christ, we're called to follow Jesus, the peaceful one. So Doctrine and Covenants invites us to courageously challenge cultural, political, and religious trends that are contrary to the reconciling and restoring purposes of God. So this is all in an effort to really live into our mission initiative of pursuing peace on earth. Our keynote speaker, I am just thrilled about. Her name is Kelly Sampson, and she is the Director of Racial Justice and Senior Counsel at the Brady Campaign. She is an expert on those intersections between racism and gun violence, as well as the policies that are needed for lasting change. I've got a QR code here in the slides that will link you to learn more about Kelly and especially her podcast that she hosts. It's a really excellent way to prepare for this event, to go back and listen to some of the episodes that she gives. All right. I've also got a schedule at a glance here. So we're inviting folks to come in Friday night, especially if you're traveling from out of town. That's going to be seen as more of a travel day. We'll be gathering at the hotel that evening. Saturday, we'll have breakfast at a hotel and then provide transportation to the DC congregation. And I want to pause here and just name how powerful we are finding it to have an event like this in a Community of Christ congregation. Just, I'll speak for myself. So often when I go to like a retreat at a campground, which I love, I have these big dreams for like who we can be in the future. And then when I come back to my congregation, it's like I've left all of my dreams at the campground. But this event really invites us to do our dreaming in the context of a congregation. So this event will be no different. We'll be partnering with the Community of Christ congregation in Washington, D.C. We'll be doing program sessions there, and we'll provide lunch and dinner and have an evening activity that first night. And then Sunday is an even more exciting opportunity. So we just happen to be in DC when there is an interfaith walk with the Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington. So this is an interfaith organization that the DC congregation has deep relationship with. And this is a walk where you can actually go to various houses of worship, almost like an open house. So we're going to be weaving this event into our content for the Peace Colloquy. And what's really, powerful about this is that not only are we being asked in this event to really imagine a faithful response, our faith-rooted response to this social justice issue, but now we have the chance to build relationships in an interfaith way. So it will give you this like tangible experience of building relationships with local congregations, local interfaith groups, people of various religious backgrounds, to then form coalitions to work towards peace with gun violence and racism. So this is going to be tangible, hands-on practice for what that looks like that you can then take back to your congregation. On Monday, we will take public transportation to the Capitol, and as we register and sort of know who's coming, we will work with you to help set up your meeting with your representative. It's possible that you may meet with a staffer as opposed to the representative themselves. That is okay. It is always a win when you have someone who holds power offer their attention to you. And so we're excited to start booking those meetings as we know who registers for this event. And Monday morning is when we will hold those meetings in person. I'm going to pause. I've sort of scurried through the things that I have for you. And really what I want is to offer a chance for us to have an activity together. So the impulse behind the Peace Colloquy is really to think about who are the people I should know in my context? What are the social justice issues that I care about, or perhaps a team in my mission center cares about, or my congregation cares about? And how can I move beyond the walls of my congregation to get to know who is doing good work in the community that we can support as a faith movement? And I want to give you a chance to do some of this brainstorming and discernment too. So I'm going to give you just like 2 minutes, And wherever you're at, if it's typing a list on your computer or writing something down, I want you to make a list of social justice topics that matter to you or matter in your ministry context. So that could be your congregation or a small group, or again, perhaps a peace and justice team in your area. So take 2 minutes and just write down. It can be as long or as short as you like. There's no wrong answers here. Write down some social justice topics that are energizing for you or that matter deeply to you. So I'm seeing on the clock 7:20 now. So I will talk to you again at 7:22. All right, I'm going to give you just a few more seconds. So once you have your list together, I want to give you another just 2 minutes to do a quick search. So you're feasibly at your computer now. Do a quick search for organizations in your area that are working on that topic. So is there perhaps a local chapter of a nationwide organization? Two that I've mentioned tonight are the Brady Campaign and FCNL. Um, Perhaps there's an interfaith or ecumenical council in your area that is working on this issue, um, or maybe a local small nonprofit. So just take 2 minutes and do a quick search on organizations that are working towards peace and justice on the social justice topic that you chose. So it's 7:23. I'll be back to you at 7:25. All right, it's been a couple of minutes, and I don't know how many of you there are, but this is sort of our strategy for how we might come back together as a group and share what we've found. So I'm going to invite you to share just like one sentence about what it is that you found in the chat. So you can say, my social justice topic was this. The organization that I found that I'm curious about is this. Something really short like that. Share it in the chat. And then we will read some of those as they come to share with the larger group. Especially when you find a nonprofit that you may not have known existed before. That is the root of that just lights me up inside. To really imagine who is it that we should know in our communities that we can partner with as people of faith who are called to create peace in our neighborhoods, and how can we join them as a faith movement and really leverage the gifts that we hold as people in community of Christ and make those gifts for people throughout the community. So that's an excellent example. Thank you.
All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. And I've got a couple of topics. First of all, we have a little tradition on Sim Sessions that we have a snack for this time. And so I looked up anything that dealt with peace and snacks, and I found out that figs were used in making peace decisions between families and nations.
I love it.
And so, of course, I didn't get a natural fig, but I got fig Newtons.
Perfect.
So we've got fig Newtons tonight, and we invite all of you at home to partake if you have some at home. Well, or go out tomorrow and get fig Newtons and make amends with the person you've had trouble with.
There you go.
So,
I love it.
so you did the Peace Colloquy in the Redwoods.
Mhm.
What was the highlight of the experience?
Oh my gosh. So many. I will say, so two things. And one of them wasn't even necessarily to do with like the more conferencey part. But Peter Mayer gave a concert. And I don't know how many of you have experienced his music again, but it is just profound. And one of the songs that he has is called Holy Now. And we were all like huddled in the dining hall for almost like a house concert. And he started singing the song Holy Now, and it became very clear that people in the audience knew the song.
Oh.
And we were like just singing it really softly, like weren't really sure if we were invited to join. And he stopped and was just like blown away that we knew this song. And he said, I want to start it again, and I want you to sing with me. And so then the whole collective started singing together, and there were harmonies, and we brought like our community of Christ, like brand of singing to it. It was just so profound. And it invited us into this really beautiful experience where we were nourished spiritually. Again, that spiritually formed community of compassionate action. And then another highlight for me, I mean, the speakers were fantastic. So Dr. Carter was our keynote speaker. And he does a lot of work on food justice and environmental justice and racial justice. So his work sits at those intersections. And he described, he used faithful language. He used religious language to kind of talk about these issues. And he said, a lot of times we're hesitant to talk about sin, like that word gets co-opted in ways that can really be diminishing to people. But he describes sin as failure to love. And so sin is failure to love my neighbor because they don't have health care, or sin is failure to love my neighbor because they don't have access to like groceries that I have access to. And so he framed sin as this like tangible thing that could be addressed with love, and to love our neighbor is really to work towards systems that create liberation for them. It was powerful.
Wow. And see, that's really a crux of where we are going as a faith movement, as well as a generational rediscovering of what does it mean to be community of Christ. And it's a place where the intersection of culture and theology connect.
Yes, that's my favorite. My favorite intersection.
And so the place where we realize that it's It's not so much about saving someone.
Right.
It's about us taking the role of a disciple to go into the world to save the world from war and hatred and dysfunction, and to bring about God's peaceable kingdom in that way. So you got a little taste of that with that, and of course, being up in Happy Valley, how could you not?
I mean, it was pretty magical.
Setting has a lot to do with
It's pretty magical.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So so you're talking about this upcoming one in September, and
Yes.
it's the dates again?
September 6th through the 9th. So that's a Friday to a Monday. And part of that, again, is because on Monday, if you're able to stay, we're really hoping to have some good meetings with folks on the Hill.
Good. And this is a different from the retreat experience of Happy Valley. This is a place where, wow, you're right there in the middle of things as far as United States goes. But is there thought about how political action and peacemaking works, especially when the nation is so divided over political ideologies?
That is one of the gifts, I think, that folks of faith can bring to conversations that are hard. So when I say gifts of faith, I mean, we have songs and hymns that compel us to do this kind of work and invites others. And music is very powerful. So
Yes.
Music is a gift that faith can bring.
Right.
Scripture, theology are enduring principles of
Yes.
pursuing peace.
Yeah.
Well, that's a mission.
Worth of all
initiative.
persons.
Worth of all persons.
Creation. Yeah.
Unity and diversity. We have these like core principles to who we are that if we take deeply, seriously, then I think we can create really beautiful, powerful change and do it in a way that invites communities to have difficult conversation that can sometimes feel divisive. But what I'm finding, especially on this issue, is that folks from a broad range of, say, political perspectives want their kid to be safe at school.
Yeah.
And that's what's driving me and our team to really talk about something that is historically hard to talk about, but it's something that we are all facing and carrying.
Absolutely.
And that we, especially as a predominantly white organization, at least in the United States, have a responsibility to name the intersections of racism and how we can dismantle that.
Great. I know someone was asking if there was going to be any live Zoom that people who might not be able to attend would be able to see what's happening at this event.
Excellent question. And we had that question at our last event. I think what I'll say right now is that we feel like we're still kind of experimenting with the event and broadening it to have folks be able to Zoom in live. Feels like an added layer that we're not quite big enough or ready enough to do.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is that it might be something that we could record
Mm-hmm.
and then make available after.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the easier thing to do, but it's something that is like in the parking lot when we like meet to talk about things. We're like, and we know that eventually one day
Yeah, right.
folks are going to want to be able to Zoom in or participate in a hybrid way. So I will say too, if the question, the impulse behind the question is concern about cost, which is a very natural concern. This event is a little bit more expensive to participate in just because we're not
How much?
all inclusive. Excellent question. So registration is $180. That covers your food and the programming cost of the event. We have a block of rooms at like a discounted rate at a hotel that is right by the airport. So the cost of the hotel room will be dependent on how many people you're sharing a room with and kind of how you build that. But the hotel cost is a travel expense that participants will be holding,
Okay.
as opposed to us wrapping it up like in a campground experience. So because of that, it really does mean that folks are holding more of the cost of the event than in our previous time. And because of that, we are really excited to announce that we have Redwood scholarships. So we're going to have
Funding available. It's a finite amount of funding, so it's going to depend on how many people apply and the need and that kind of thing. But funding that can make various pieces of the event covered.
Yeah.
So say you want to apply to just have your hotel covered as a hotel voucher,
Okay.
or say you want to, have a flight voucher of like $350 to cover $350 of your flight. So it's kind of like an a la carte
Yeah.
scholarship system, and all of that is going to be on our landing page, which launches May 6th. So that's on Monday. And anybody who's participating in our time together tonight, I want to work with you to get an email out to them.
Okay.
If they want to register.
So we'll send an email out to everyone about this program. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, we should have that information put down below right now and that you can also see. Now, I also know we have a number of people who watch this in Canada, and I just saw somebody from Australia.
Really?
And
What?
saw somebody earlier.
Hi, friends.
Let's see. Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, wow. So
Wow.
we've got a number of people. So with all that in mind, and I know going to Washington, D.C. is a USA-centric kind of thing.
Yep.
If you were sitting with a group of people who are talking about a peace colloquy in their nation, what would you have them focus on?
I would say start with a topic that holds deep meaning to you. Start with that light, because it's going to guide you where you need to go. And start honestly with a simple action like what we just did together. So what is a topic in your community that you can become more educated on, and that you can find partners in your area that are already doing good work? And send them an email and say, hey, can I talk about the amazing work that you're doing?
Right.
So
the local issues are the key. The community, not just the national, but the local issues too.
Right. And that's one of the reasons we kind of aim to partner for our event, because we are inviting a broad scope of people.
Mm-hmm.
So part of the reason for that started with Sierra Pacific having the funds to invite people from all over the country, because we really wanted to share the resources that we have. So that's what started this as sort of a local event, but also everybody come.
Right.
And that's why we're choosing organizations that, yes, matter to the local context, say in the San Jose congregation where we hosted our last event. But they're also nationwide chapters, so that someone can go home and say, you know what, I was so inspired by the FCNL presentation. I went home and I've met with the FCNL chapter leader in my area, and now I'm going to go with them to lobby on issues of peace.
Yeah.
So if you were to try to do that in a different national context, and say you're in Canada, or you're in Trinidad Tobago, or you're in Australia, and you want to turn it into something that is a larger, like a y'all come,
right,
then I would encourage you to at least mix into the organizations that you invite a chapter-wide model. So that folks that come can go home and then connect with an organization.
Good. I'm going to look at my notes here of what people have said. Well, we got a few more here, so this might take. Somebody else said, I have homelessness too, and work with a nonprofit Food 7 shelter in Norman, Oklahoma. Oh, these are people still talking about what their organization. Focus on racial justice in the Kansas City, Missouri area. More too. When will you be announcing the hotel costs?
I can announce that right now. Okay. So our room rate, I want to say, is $179. I will correct that in an email. No, it's $179. I know this. It's in my head. It's $179 per night. And that's for a bedroom with 2 queen beds. So if you have like a group of 4 people who are gonna like bunk together, it makes it more reasonable.
Yeah.
Than not.
Yeah.
I will say the other the cost saving piece of the puzzle that we are offering. So at our last event, we had 3 senior high youth come, and we were just delighted that they were there, and they participated fully. They didn't have any separate programming. They were there to learn about the event. if there are youth that are interested in coming to this event, we are hoping to house them in the parsonage, which is the house that is close to the congregation. So that way there wouldn't be hotel cost for youth. Of course, it would also require that there would be a 2 Deep leadership, like chaperone, delegation leader person to come along with them and also stay in the parsonage.
So
And
Joelle will not be monitoring.
he's gonna host a whole big crew.
Joelle White.
He lives
Yeah.
in the parsonage. And that again, this is all an experiment. And so we're holding it with a posture of like, let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
If for some reason we get like hundreds of youth that want to come to this, they can't all stay in the parsonage. So we're going to like reassess. But if you have like 2 or 3 youth in your community that are just like really passionate about this topic and about learning how to take the faith that they hold dear and leverage that to seek justice in the world, we would love to have them.
And somebody's asking, which hotel are you using for those of us who have reward accounts with different hotels?
Oh, I love it. This is the Hampton Inn. So I don't know what broader umbrella that's under, but it's the Hampton Inn, Arlington, Crystal Springs. It's right next to the airport, and they have a free shuttle, which is why we chose them.
Nice.
And they were great to work with. So
Wonderful. Wonderful. So in closing tonight, if there was one thing you hope people come away with at the Washington, D.C. Colloquy, what would it be?
I'm going to cheat. I have 2.
2.
I hope that folks who come, and myself included, because I want to grow in knowing about how these are connected. I want us to walk away with a deep understanding of how racism and gun violence are interconnected. That's the one thing. The second thing is I want us to walk away feeling empowered that our faith movement in Community of Christ has gifts to bring to those issues. And here are some tangible ways you can learn how to use those gifts in service to changing the systems as they are now.
Wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Emily. Yes, please come. No, it's fine. And so tonight, again, we close out hoping that you learned something tonight, and you'll join us in future telecasts, usually on Wednesday nights. And then we've got a number of other things coming up that I'm sure you'll be interested in. Make sure you go to our website and find out more about our schedule and join us here on Wednesday nights. And if you can't join us Wednesday nights, then go to our YouTube channel where we also have these ready for you to view, usually the week after the presentation's taken place. Again, I'm David Lloyd, the director of the CIMM Center, the Center for Innovation in Ministry and Mission, and it's been great to have you with us tonight. Have a good evening.